Hi. Today we are talking about solving one-step equations using addition and subtraction, which we've done before, but this is particularly with negatives. We're going to keep the same goals that we had before. We want to isolate the variable, which means get that variable by itself. I want to know what x equals. I don't really care what 10x equals. And number two, keep the equation balanced. I compared that to if you have a sibling and your sibling gets dessert with dinner and you would not get dessert with dinner, that would not be equal. So equation's the same thing. If you do something on one side of the equation, you must do the same thing to the other side of the equation. So key ideas, we have the addition property of equality and the subtraction property of equality. The addition property of equality says adding the same number to each side basically just keeps the equation balanced. Subtraction property of equality says the same thing. When subtracting a number from both sides of the equation, it will keep it balanced. Okay, we have two examples in example one. A reminder, when we are solving equations, you might want to use a highlighter to highlight the variable to remind us that that variable in the end should be by itself on the side of the equal sign. And we also like to draw a line down the center of the equal sign, showing that whatever we do here, we should also be doing on this side. Now, one thing I want you to recognize is this says x minus 5. And before, when we were working with integers, we were turning subtraction problems into addition problems by doing keep, change, change. Now, this is not 100% necessary to show this step when you're showing your work, but I want you to see that what we do to each of these is going to be the same thing because subtracting 5 and negative 5 mean the same thing. So how do we get negative 5 to go away? We would put positive 5 or plus 5. What we do to one side, we do to the other side. These cancel. That leaves me with x equals. Now, we are used to seeing these written out horizontally. It's very easy for our brain to either ignore the minus sign or move the minus sign to the 5. So it's easier to see it if we write it out like this. Negative 1 plus 5. Okay, this is what we're used to. Now we have to decide if we have same or different signs. We have different signs. We find the difference between the numbers. The difference between 1 and 5 is 4. And the 5 would win in a tug of war, so it is a positive 4. So x equals positive 4. Now you can check your work by plugging that back in. It is true that 4 minus 5 equals negative 1, so we're happy with that answer. Okay, moving on to part B. Again, I'm going to highlight my variable to show that I need to isolate it and to remind myself that I need to isolate it. And I draw my line. I want to get positive 3/2 to go away, so I am going to subtract 3/2. What I do to one side, I do to the other side. These cancel. That leaves me with z equals. Now again, we're not used to seeing subtraction problems like this. We can't do 1/2 minus 3/2 because you can't take 3/2 away from 1/2. So I'm going to write it out horizontally and follow our subtraction rules with integers. We're going to do add the opposite to make this an addition problem. I see I have a positive and a negative. So I'm going to find the difference, different signs. I'm going to find the difference between them. Now, luckily for us, the denominators are the same, so I just have to focus on the numerators when doing my calculation. 3 and 1, the difference between them is 2. And I keep my denominator. And 3/2 would win in tug of war over 1/2, so we have negative. Now, hopefully you can recognize that 2 divided by 2 is just the same thing as 1. So z equals negative 1. And again, you can plug negative 1 back in here and solve this side to check to make sure that it equals 1/2. Okay, last example. Writing an equation. A skydiving company has a profit of $750 this week. This profit is $900 more than the profit P last week. Which equation can be used to find P? So this week we have 750. Then the following sentence says this profit is. When it says this profit is, it's referring to this. So 750 is equals, so I know A and B are my only options because I need 700. This profit, 750, is equals 900 more than P. So I'm looking at this. 900 more than P gives me B as the correct answer. So this is the equation that can be used to find the profit P from last week. And that is the end of our one-step equations using addition and subtraction with negatives notes.